Should Hangman Page win the AEW World Championship tomorrow night at AEW Full Gear 2021? I am Luke Owen, DAD, and I am joined by that bitch, your Quizzlemania champion from LI Dickheads, Tempo T. Wrestlo. How are you, sir?
I'm doing it fabulously, Luke. I get to talk about AEW today, which is out of the ordinary for my typical week. So I'm in high spirits.
It's delightful. So to peel back the curtain somewhat, ladies and gentlemen, if you were watching last week's show, you will have heard that Denise Salcedo said that she's bailing on this show again because she had the temerity to be busy working by going to do the media stuff at AEW Full Gear. So she's flying out to Minneapolis today. So she's like, I can't do the Friday show, and I can't do the week after that either. I said, that's fine. Don't worry. I'll find a replacement for you. So I thought, maybe I'll reunite Ollie and Luke on a Friday show. That'll be fun. And then Ollie was like, no, I'm off on Friday. I'm like, cool. Well, it's okay. I'll ask SP3. So I message SP3 and I'll be like, hey man, do you fancy doing the show? He was like, sorry man, I'm going out for Full Gear. I was like, nope, no, it's okay. It's all good. Pete's around. Messaged Pete. I was on the tube last night with Pete because we went to drafts with Editor Terry and Social Media Abby. And I said to Pete, I was like, hey, do you fancy doing the show tomorrow? And he said, no, I'm off work tomorrow. And I was like, oh, God dang it. And then he said, ask Tempest. And I was like, why didn't I think of Tempest in the first place? Tempest seems like the most smartest answer to do with this because I get to talk about AEW with Tempest the wrestler. And that's a really fun time. I'd much rather do that than talk about AEW with someone who doesn't care about AEW. At least you like the product.
I do. I'm everyone's fifth choice to be on a podcast.
It was like, damn, Tempest, the seventh pick in the draft.
I was always the last kid picked in gym class.
So was I. I'm just extracting my revenge on everyone now. But anyway, thank you so much for joining us, Tempest. Also, you may have noticed that the title of this video changed at some point, and I've been talking about it all week. Matt McMuscles was meant to be joining us for this show today, but unfortunately, scheduling difficulties have gotten in the way of us. So Matt is looking to be on next week's show instead. So it's just me and Tempo for today. So, Tempest.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Full Gear. First of all, before we get into the meat of the subject, by the way, beer52.com/WrestleTalk, get yourself 10 free craft beers. It's one for every match on this Full Gear card. How are you feeling about Full Gear, which is, again, tomorrow night?
I keep forgetting that it's tomorrow night. It's kind of snuck up on me. The November pay-per-view, because there's only 2 months between All Out and Full Gear, as opposed to like 3 or 4 months between Full Gear and Revolution, then Revolution and whatever, the rest of the pay-per-view schedule. This is the shortest gap. So it really is snuck up on me. That being said, I don't think I'm quite as excited for the show as I was for All Out, but that's just because All Out was like the most excited I've ever been for a pay-per-view.
And you were there.
Yeah, I was there. And if it wasn't such a hassle to get over the border and back right now, I'd probably be trying to go to this show. I'll be honest. I would probably be trying to go. That being said, I'm really looking forward to this show. I think this card looks fantastic, and there's a lot of matches here that I have a genuine interest in. More than just like, oh, that'll be fun or that'll be a good match. Like, no, I'm really into this card.
Yeah, I was listening to Stephen Larson on the way to work. I was talking about this on the Dynamite show yesterday, but I was listening to Stephen Larson talking about this show. And I can't remember which one it was. It might have been Steve said, like, on paper, this has every chance to be show of the year. Like, I think it will end up being All Out. Like, I think when we send out our forms, when we do our end of year awards, we send out like a questionnaire to, everyone who works within the WrestleTalk, everyone who works with WrestleTalk.com, everyone who works on partsFUNknown, on Wrestling Daily, and, the Quizzlemania extended family. So like Sean, Denise, Alex, Brian Zane. We send it out to everyone, right? I am fairly confident that All Out is going to win Best Show of the Year, because of the triple header, right, of Ruby Soho and then the closing of Adam Cole and Danielson, plus CM Punk's first match back in, however long. So like
the cage match.
Exactly, the cage match, which was insanely great. So I think that likely that will win show of the year. But I do think on paper, this is a better show than All Out.
I think it could be. I mean, you've got Adam Cole wrestling on this show.
Yeah,
you've got Bryan Danielson in a big singles match on this show. You have the culmination of the Omega and Hangman. Well, possibly the culmination. We don't know. But a big title match there. This has the potential to be bigger and better than that one. I just don't think it has like that hype around it because of the extra things like, oh, who's showing up? This is more of just like a pay-per-view wrestling card where you're showing up to see the wrestling matches and the stories and all of that, as opposed to like, well, who's gonna show up? Debuts to AEW confirmed, which is like a different kind of excitement. And I love both. It'll just be interesting to see how the pay-per-view turns out at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. And like, this is, All Out was Punk's first match in 7 years, but this is Punk's first match with some steak and sizzle and bite to it. Oh, yeah. So I think that's really going to elevate that match over the Darby Allin match. So let's kind of dive in. Oh, sure. I like this from Neil. It's like, how long before Luke and Tempest just start talking about Pearl Jam?
Yeah.
In all fairness, like when I was messaging Matt McMuscles earlier, he was like, I just wanted to come on the podcast and talk to you about the new Limp Bizkit album. And I was like, yeah, me too. Like that's kind of what I was thinking of doing. I was listening to it again this morning.
This whole thing just devolves back into a new metal podcast.
That's the way that me and Tempest roll. Anytime we get together, it's like, hey, should we just talk about some new metal? Yeah, let's do it. Anyway, let's get into the meat and potatoes of all of this. Hangman Page versus Kenny Omega. Storyline that's been building for 2 years plus at this point. I think you can make the argument that this storyline started really at the first AEW press events, the one in Jacksonville, where Pac came out to be like the EYI man, I think I'm better than you. And I think I should be the face of this promotion. And then the match that they were supposed to have at Double or Nothing that actually happened in Nottingham that I was there for. And then that built up to the Jericho loss. That then built to the tag team with Omega, which then led to their amazing run as the tag team champions. The loss to FTR last year, the Full Gear last year, where Kenny Omega beat him in the World Title Eliminator Tournament and then went on to win the belt. This has been building for so long. But the question is now the time to pull the trigger?
I think it is. And I've gone back and forth on this a lot the last few weeks, ever since they announced the match, really, because I am not married to the idea that he needs to win it at this show. I do think that given AEW's track record, they could work the storyline so that it builds up to another title change. I still think he should be the guy to beat Kenny Omega. Like 100%, he should be the guy. Whether they do it now or they continue the storyline and change his character more in the time between now and another title shot, I don't know. And that would be the big case, because to me, this isn't like a lot of the times we've seen where it's like, oh, he loses here, he's not going to be the guy. We've seen throughout Hangman Page's story that his losses have consequences, and it leads to him changing his character and having a great deal of character development. And that to me is very important to this story. Without him losing a number of times earlier in the story, I don't think this has the same kind of emotional weight that it has now. So that being said, I do think that now is the time for him to win. I think that if this match had happened at All Out, I think he would have lost. But when it became clear that his paternity leave was going to change plans, I think the big 10-man tag where he lost his opportunity, I think that kind of took the place of a first title shot loss. And then this match is now the second shot, basically. So I think it all still kind of works out, and now he's going to win the title.
I would agree with you on that one. Like where I come down on this, and then some people were really surprised by this in the comments of yesterday's prediction videos, because I come down this on looking at it from two ways. It's my head and my heart, right? So my heart says Hangman has to win, but my head says Danielson is likely winning the world title eliminator tournament. I think it's a pretty safe bet that he's going to beat Miro tomorrow night, and he's going to be the new number one contendership. So if Danielson is winning the world title eliminator tournament, what's the bigger match for you as Tony Khan, the promoter? Is it Danielson versus Page, or is it Danielson Omega 2? Now, so there's part of me that, I go back and forth on that. Like, do it like now is the time to pull the trigger, but also, hey, that's pretty good. But when I was doing the Kenny Omega article on for WrestleTalk magazine, there was a quote from Omega that really stuck out to me, which is that he felt after the greatness of the first Okada Omega match, he felt that the sequel came too soon after the first one. Like, he thought that they should have held off, should have done it at Dominion, should have held off. That was not the time to do it. Face of the G1, yeah, probably. But like that title match should not have happened so soon after the Wrestle Kingdom match. And if that Kenny Omega is still the same Kenny Omega we have now, is he saying to Tony Khan, look, yeah, Omega Danielson 2 is a big match for us to do, but let's not do it now. Like, let's hold off and wait until, people are salivating for the idea of us getting into the ring again.
It's very interesting. That's very interesting. I hadn't thought of it like that, but it's a very interesting point, because I don't know. I would assume that whoever wins the Eliminator tournament is going to get a title shot at like Winter is Coming or like the beginning of December show,
which or like a January 1st show or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Like they never do the number one contenders match on a pay-per-view and then build that up until the next pay-per-view just because that's so long. Yeah.
It could likely be the first TBS show.
Oh, could be that as well. Could be that. Yeah. But it makes a lot of sense if they want to hold off on doing Kenny Bryan 2. If they want to hold off on that, I don't even think it's that big of a stretch to think that Miro might win this match. I think Hangman Page against Miro would be a really big first title defense for him. I think even if Kenny retains, I think Kenny Omega versus Miro is like a really interesting opportunity. Double heel match, really fun, two great wrestlers, the whole deal. I don't think it's a lock that Bryan wins this tournament, and that could buy them a little bit of time if they plan on holding off on Bryan Kenny too. I don't know though. After the promo at the end of Dynamite where they had the contract signing and went through all of that, I saw that segment and went, Hangman should win.
Yeah. Right. I had the same sort of thing.
That solidified it. Like, now is the time.
The contract in blood.
Yeah. They've hit the perfect point. They've hit the peak. I don't know if they could go higher. Of course, this storyline keeps proving me wrong. It keeps getting better. But I don't know if you can beat this. This is really, really good. And if they did the title change here, I don't think anyone's going to be disappointed. Except Louis.
I said this on the prediction show last night. I mean, Ollie made this point, and it's a point that I sort of agree with as well, which is that, like, the comments very much disagreed with what Davis had to say, but I don't think it's a terrible take, which is Omega wins here. Omega then beats Danielson. Omega then beats Punk. Omega then beats Adam Cole. And then Hangman Page beats him. All of a sudden, Hangman Page hasn't just beaten Kenny Omega. He has beaten the guy that has beaten all of the top guys on AEW's roster. So I sort of see from that point, but then Ollie's like pitching, oh man, you should wait until All Out 2022. I don't know if you can stretch this out for that long.
Yeah, that might be pushing it a little bit, And I will say that take does kind of remind me of Okada's incredible IWGP title run.
Right. Yeah.
Because there were several times throughout that title run where people were like, well, now is obviously the time. Kenny Omega needs to win the title in the Tokyo Dome. Kenny Omega needs to win the title at Dominion. Tetsuya Naito needs to win the title in the Tokyo Dome. And it never happened. It didn't happen. Okada just kept winning. He kept retaining the title over and over and over again. And eventually they got to Omega Okada 4, and that was the actual right time.
That's right, yeah.
And we were all wrong for having thought that all the previous times were the right time. They probably would have been cool moments, but they held it off for as long as possible, and it resulted in the biggest possible moment. So I don't know if you could do that with this title run, because obviously things are different over here, weekly television and all that. That being said, if they want to make Kenny Omega like the modern day greatest world champion of all time, I could see them going that direction and just saying he's going to be the champion for a year and a half, 2 years, and then Hangman wins. I just don't know if you make the story better by doing that.
I found the Kenny Omega quote as well that I was referencing earlier. So it was Wrestling Dontaku. Okada named Omega as the next challenger for the IWGP Championship at Dominion. Omega told ESPN, "I personally think it's too soon to revisit that match. I would have liked to just let that performance be, come back to it at a later date. But there comes a time in business when it's just important to move numbers, put asses in seats. But as the saying goes, you have to come out all guns blazing." So there is that part of me that with Omega was like, maybe he is the guy to be like, let's hold off. In which case, then it sort of makes sense to put the belt on Omega now. Sorry, to put the belt on Page now, because then you do Page Danielson, and you get to hold off on doing Danielson Omega too, and save that for like maybe rather than doing it on TV this time, you save it for the pay-per-view where you actually have an outcome on the show.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
No, I don't. Yeah, that's a very good point, actually, because like this is the thing we were talking about on the prediction show yesterday. This is a hard card to predict. Yeah, because like there's so many things that could swing either way, and I love that actually. I really love that about like Full Gear. I had like 3 solid confidence choices, like where I went and be like, okay, these are the matches I am 100% confident that Britt Baker is retaining the title. I am pretty confident that Inner Circle Jerks are going to be American Top Team because they've taken so many losses against them. So I'm pretty confident on that one. And I think you need to give Jericho a win to lead to the or however you say his name, Maslow match. But aside from that, like the other one actually, and I wanted to ask you where you land on this, Kingston Punk.
Oh, it's tough, isn't it? It's tough. I think Punk wins because I think you do want to keep him undefeated for a really big match, whether that's Kenny Omega or whatever. I think you build to that. That being said, if Eddie Kingston was able to get a big win here over Punk, man, I wouldn't be sad seeing it. I would just be like, wow.
Well, like it's crazy. It's the same thing with the main event. If Hangman Page wins tomorrow night, I'm going to be so happy. If Kenny Omega retains tomorrow night, I'm going to be like, that's awesome, because we're still like holding on. And like you said, making him that great modern day world champion. I can see it. I really can see it going either way. I know a lot of people, like I can see them in the chat and I can see them in the comments yesterday, who think it is more cut and dry than it is. I don't think it is. And I would be happy with either way. Same with Punk Kingston. If Punk wins, that's great, because in Eddie's own mind, he doesn't care if he wins or loses. He just wants to beat up CM Punk. But if Kingston wins, holy heckins, you get that first Punk loss out of the way, you give it to someone like an Eddie Kingston. That is a massive, massive boon to him. And this feels like it's a series of matches as opposed to a one and done thing. This whole feud has been built on one promo segment on Rampage.
Yeah, it's so crazy to me that this incredible little storyline, it's like a 2 or 3 week build based off of a guy interrupting another guy's backstage promo segment.
Oh, yeah.
And it's incredible.
It's so good.
It's so good because you just let 2 good promos go out there and cut promos on each other. Yeah. Oh, I love it. I absolutely love it.
Good. Like I
will say quickly about like this card and AEW just in general. I think right now this card and this whole topic speaks to AEW having that goodwill. If they make a decision, it's like whenever Gato in New Japan would book something that I didn't see coming. In that case, I'm like, you are smarter than I trust that you have a vision and you have a plan, and this is going to work out.
How did that work out for you in 2020?
Well, everything comes to an end. This is more something regarding Gato that took place like 3 or 4 or 5 years ago.
The evil thing may pay off.
Let it play out. Let it play out. But I mean, I don't have that same confidence when watching the other show, because I don't know why you would, but I have a lot of confidence watching this show that if they decide that Kenny Omega is the right choice to be world champion right now, that it's the right choice and it's going to pay off down the road. I have that confidence in them, and that just helps a lot with my enjoyment. I know I'm not going to have the rug taken out from under me.
I'm going to be curious. I think Jenna might be around. So, Mod Mother Jenna, if you are there and you are able to put up a poll for us, we did a poll like this on a Dynamite episode about whether or not Hangman Page should win the title, yes or no. And it was overwhelmingly for Page to win. Mm-hmm. I'm curious to see what difference that number would be this time round. So close, 24 hours removed from, or 24 hours before Full Gear kicks into gear. Full beer, if you will. Fullbeer52.com/WrestleTalk. Get yourself 10 free craft beers on us. What the reaction would be this time round. I actually think, going by looking at the live chat here, looking at the comments on yesterday's particular video, it's actually going to be more weighted towards Paige than it was the last time we did it. So the other thing I wanted to talk to you about, this AEW card. And this was something, there we go. Thank you very much. We have now got a poll up. So please do vote in that poll. Should Hangman Page win the title tomorrow? Thank you very much, moderators. I feel like I have got to be in my bonnet about this. I know other people have got to be in their bonnet about this, and I fully stand by them. But I know that it's not everyone has got to be in their body about this, be in their bonnets. There's only one women's card on this match that matters, right? Out of this 10-match card, it is all dudes, and there are 2 women's matches. One of them is for the world title, and it really doesn't feel like it's a world title match, and the other one is a tag match that's on the pre-show. Mm-hmm. I am disappointed in AEW that there isn't more of an effort, because this happens every single show now. And I'm disappointed that more of an effort has not been made for this show, particularly because I could have sworn, I would have put Louis Dangoor money down that we were going to have Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb on this show.
Yeah. So odd, Yeah. So odd. Like, between that match and obviously I've got a different mindset when it comes to this rivalry than they do, clearly, but I would have thought we would have seen a Britt Baker Thunder Rosa match by now, because I said that ahead of All Out, and people were like, "No, it's too soon to do the title change." And I was like, "Well, you don't need to do the title change here. Just do the match because it's a big match, and then you can build to a rematch where the title change happens." If Britt Baker beats Thunder Rosa, she could say, "Oh, I'm 1-0 against Thunder Rosa. That other match doesn't count. How does it feel to have never beaten me, Thunder Rosa? Haha." Work some heel shtick into it. That's a really big match. And I feel like they kind of blew through their really big title match when they did Britt Baker and Ruby Soho on TV. And now they haven't really got that next big one to come right back with for the pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And I kind of think they maybe should have just held that one off until the pay-per-view, and it would have been like a really big match with a 2-month build and everything like that. Because I love Ty Conti. I think she's great and super improved from where she was when she left NXT. That being said, I don't think there's a chance that she wins this match. And I want that kind of suspension of disbelief when I watch the big title matches on pay-per-view. And it seems like I never really get that feeling watching the women's matches.
Yeah, I know. I agree with you here. Like, I'm a big Ty Conti fan. Don't get me wrong. I think she's great. I think she's grand. But there was a moment on Dynamite this week when Britt Baker stood across the ring from Thunder Rosa and the crowd went bananas for it. And then when Baker stood across the ring from Conti, less so.
The crowd went mild.
The crowd went mild because I think that tells you that what the audience appetite is right now is for that big match. And I totally get the argument of holding off on it. I totally get that argument because kind of like what we were saying about Omega Danielson, you want to make people really want to see that match. And I totally get that argument. The other side of that coin and why that argument doesn't hold that much water in this scenario is that there isn't another big match to fall back on. Like if you don't do Danielson versus Omega 2 in, an early January, and winter is coming, a Revolution or stuff, you have got 5 or 6 big time matches that you can fall back on to be like, well, okay, well, I can see why they're delaying Danielson Omega 2 because you've got Omega Punk, you've got Omega Page, you've got Omega Cole, you've got like all of these matches that you can fall back on. Omega Kingston, for God's sake. With Britt Baker, it feels like she has Thunder Rosa and that's it. And there's Ruby Soho as well, which has already beaten Ruby. So like there's no other big matches for them to fall back on. So we're now, and I like the fact that Conti is getting this shot, but it doesn't feel as big time on a card that is stacked full of big time matches.
Yeah. And I agree. I think there's still possibilities that they could have worked with here. I think you could have come back with a Hikaru Shida Britt Baker rematch from Double or Nothing.
100%.
Like that would have been one of the bigger matches that they could have done in the women's division. It doesn't feel like they're putting that same level of thinking into the women's title matches on pay-per-view as they are when it's like, we need to have the big world championship match in the main event, and the tag title match has got to be really big and important and everything. And it's like, do the same thing for them because they've got the talent now. The women's division is there. You've got Ruby Soho and Hikaru Shida and Serena Deeb and Thunder Rosa, and there's so many options now. And I understand if you have plans for some of them, but like, come on. You can work with us a little bit here. Put something on pay-per-view that has a little bit more meat to it than what we've been given.
I still think it'd be a really good match tomorrow. Like I think it will.
I'm really looking forward to it.
And I think the content Baker in particular, because the crowd are so into Britt Baker at the moment. Like she can get anyone into any match that she is going to put them again. So I don't think that there's any danger of that. But I do think that there is this sort of like overall aesthetic with AEW that it is the women's matches are so secondary within this company, and it's hard to avoid. And it is like, I mean, Alex Queen of the Ring did an incredible Twitter Spaces about this last night after Tony Khan's less than sensible answer he had about like an all women's AEW pay-per-view. I mean, I nearly had it as the topic for this video, but I thought, you know what, like 2 white guys with beards are probably not the people to be like having this, probably not having this level of bait. I would suggest everyone go and like check out Alex Queen of the Ring sort of like thread and thoughts on this. Go and see what she has to say about the situation. But like the tag match on the pre-show, if it was me booking it, I would have Cody and Pac versus Malachi Black and Andrade on the kickoff show. Like that for me as a buy-in, if your whole goal of the buy-in, if your whole goal of the kickoff show is to make people want to buy the pay-per-view, put that Smeggin match on there, right? Because that's 4 huge names. It's 4 big names. And that will do more for your pay-per-view buys than putting 4 women out there whose only connection is, well, they're in the tournament brackets together for the TBS title.
Hell, you could have even done like a big tournament match on the pay-per-view.
100%. Why isn't bloody exactly. Why isn't Soho versus Statlander on the show?
Yeah. Like that doesn't need to have a huge storyline behind it. It's a tournament match with 2 good wrestlers, and I'm sure they'll go out and tear the house down. You know, I mean, yeah, I agree. I think the men's tag on the pre-show would have led more people to buy the show than just a seemingly fairly random collection of women, you know, without much behind it, with just, oh, they're in the tournament, that's it, you know?
Yeah.
I agree. I would have done this differently.
before we sort of move into people's Ultra Chats, is there any other matches that you want to highlight that you'd really like to talk about before we move on?
Ooh, that's tough. I will say, I think my only real point that I want to make is that I want Hangman Page and Kenny Omega to be like the best match of all time.
I know, right?
You know,
I want this to be real good.
I want this to be like the epic conclusion to one of the best wrestling stories that I've seen in my time watching wrestling. Oh, yeah. I want that. I want that to be a thing. That being said, I have a hard time thinking that Bryan Danielson versus Miro won't be like the best thing that I've ever seen.
Well, that's because like Danielson, we joked about this when we did the SmackDown review a couple of weeks ago. Danielson just woke up early one morning in sort of like August and thought to himself, I think I'm just going to be the best wrestler in the world. Yeah, I've got a few months on. Got a few months left in the year. I can win the Wrestling Observer Wrestler of the Year if I try a bit hard. I reckon I could do that. So he's just gone out there in AEW and he's just like, yeah, you know, who am I facing? Rocky Romero, cool. I'll have the best match on the card. Fine. I that's just what he's doing. Well, Anthony Bowens, yeah, cool. I'll have the best match on the card. So I think there's every chance it's going to be an absolute banger and the best match on the show.
I think it will. So it's so weird that I was like, if I had to pick the best match on the show, I'm like, it will probably be Bryan Danielson and Miro. But I also want Hangman Page and Kenny Omega to be like the best match of all time. And I can't have both of those two things. You know? It's like how Omega Okada 4. Yeah,
you can have all of it. You can have it all.
I want it all. I'm greedy. I want it. I want my cake and I want to eat it too. You know? Oh,
because
man.
For me, like I think Punk Kingston has every chance of stealing the show. Oh yeah. And I think what is really going to help that is a Money in the Bank 2011 level crowd. That is just like, because that's the thing. What I love about this feud built on one promo segment. It's how great these two are. Is that the audience, the AEW audience, is thirsty for this match. Like they are rabid for this match. So I think when those two men are standing across the ring from each other and that bell rings, the crowd are gonna go ballistic. And I think that is really gonna help elevate this match.
Oh man, I love being there for AEW pay-per-view crowds. It's really something special, you know. Mm-hmm. Oh man, I wish I was there for this weekend. I really do, because there's a lot of these matches where I was just like, oh, I want to see that live. I really do.
I cannot wait for this company to come across the sea. Come across, like, you know, things are opening up again. Like, please, can I have a little crumb? Look, I've seen one AEW match live in my life, and it was at a show in Nottingham in a gym hall. I'd like to see a big AEW pay-per-view, please.
Please, sir. Can I have some AEW, sir?
That's how I feel every time I'm watching one of these shows. I was like, maybe next year will be the year that we get something over here. Right, let's move into your Ultra Chats, because you have got a bunch to say on this. Also, update on the poll. So 11 minutes ago, about nearly 800 votes on this. So you've still got time to vote in there. It's at the top of the thread. 86% think that Hangman Page should win the title. That's a landslide victory.
That's pretty one-sided.
And I think that 14% of people who are voting no is Ollie Davis making burner accounts. So listen to me. Please also click the link in the video description down below, or the one being provided by our wonderful moderators, to beer52.com/WrestleTalk. Get yourself not one, not two, not three, but 10 free craft beer from Beer 52. It's UK viewers only, but they are the most wonderful human beings. They've supported us a lot over the years. They've been sponsoring us a lot this year, and they're sponsoring like so many shows this year. They're sponsoring tomorrow's AEW Full Gear live reactions. Ollie and I are super thrilled. And also, Tempest, I'm getting the train in to the studio tomorrow to do the live reactions. I'm not driving. That means I can have a beer. Yeah.
I don't know what I'm going to be drinking. I don't know what I'm drinking tomorrow.
And
Oh, look
I'm
at
really
you.
excited about it. I'm going to have a beer with Ollie, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I'm going to get the train at 8 a.m. the following morning, stinking of booze and looking like a right weirdo to all of like the people who are just trying to get out of London. Yeah, it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. So we're at a bit of a change of pace as well. We're doing the live reactions, and then like half an hour after the show is finished, we're doing the podcast review. Ollie and I are going to stick around in the studio, and we're going to be reviewing the show basically directly after the show has finished. We've got some like admin bits to do in that half hour period. Yeah, we're going to be doing a full podcast review directly ish after the show has finished, which I'm very excited about.
At least it'll be fresh in your mind.
It'll be so fresh in my mind, although I will be a sleepy boy because
I was about to say, oh man,
I mean, this is a 6-hour show, right? Like this is a 5-hour show at the bare minimum. I think it may go like super duper long. This may be an experiment that only lasts for 2 weeks because we're going to do it for Survivor Series as well. But Ollie may be like, I'm too tired and I need to go home and have some sleep before the next one. All right. The Guilty Hat says, at this point, I'm more interested to see Omega without the belt. He doesn't need it for another match with Bryan. And the story of him losing big matches while Cole and the Bucks are winning fuels a story around the line, the Elite is for winners.
There's a lot of possibilities here. There's a lot of possibilities. Also, can I throw this out there as a possible scenario? Omega loses. He needs something to do afterwards. He comes out with Don Callis to talk. And then, I don't know if this is going to make the noise that I want it to, but Okada comes out on Dynamite next.
Actually, not bad. That was actually pretty good. That was a pretty good.
I was like, oh, I kind of got it. I kind of got it.
Pretty good.
You know, Okada comes out there next week, and you can build to a potential next Okada match.
Oh man.
Takes him away from the title picture, gives him something else to do, and that would be a pretty interesting direction.
Do it in the UK. Plasma PD says, morning, Luke and Tempest. I think Adam Page will win because the story makes sense he would win here. But if he doesn't win, then All Out next year has to be the time. Also, I'm hoping one day the Pillars will form a Nexus-like faction. I do remember a Jim Cornette quote where he said, you can't keep having a babyface who is over and have them losing to be the champion. They're going to lose momentum and could lose fans, so I think TK will pull the trigger. So a couple of interesting points there. I sort of agree with you mostly, Plasma PD, but I kind of also like the idea of those 4 pillars of AEW being on its heel faction.
This came up a couple months ago. I think it was when I did the review of the Grand Slam show. I don't foresee MJF and Jungle Boy ever being in a faction together.
I also don't foresee people booing Jungle Boy.
Yeah.
His hair's too nice.
MJF and Jungle Boy together, it's like matter and antimatter trying to cooperate.
Those How will they possibly coexist?
Other ends of the scale working in a faction together. I don't know. I don't really see it, but I could be wrong.
8-Bit Archer, guys. It's gotta be Hangman, right? It's just a perfect spot to spin everything off. Hangman's vindication, Kenny start to unravel, Cole waiting in the wings, Danielson lurking like an environmentally friendly vegan murdering shark. Homestar fans says, that's good. Homestar fan said, I personally feel like Page needs to win this match. Holding out on the title win for a longer might risk people being burnt out on the storyline. Also, I feel like Danielson Omega doesn't need the title. And I completely agree with you. And I 100% agree with you. Whenever I say Danielson Omega too, the reason why I'm talking about that in relation to Omega winning is because Danielson's probably going to be the next contender for the title. That's why I tend to go towards that. Adam Weiss said, I think Hangman beats Omega, then beats the man Omega couldn't beat, Bryan Danielson, furthering a Kenny downward spiral that leads to Adam Cole stealing the Young Bucks away from him, possibly coinciding with Kevin Steen joining AEW and Kenny's alone with Don Callis.
I'll be very interested to see with all of this, because I could see Hangman Page winning the title and then the focus kind of shifting onto Kenny from that character point of view, because Kenny's obviously been the champion and his story is being the champion. He gets the title defenses and that's what he's focused on. Meanwhile, Hangman Page is the one who's had like the really deep introspective character arc with all of this. if they move the title from one to the other, I think Kenny could be the one to have like that really deep character arc coming out of this about, his insecurities and the Elite and his former friends, and maybe get Kota Ibushi involved. I don't know, spitballing here. But I think there's a lot of possibilities to have his focus be on the character and the storyline that he's gone through since arriving in AEW, because it's basically been Page since the start of the company, really.
But Tempest, I'm sure you were making really excellent points there, but I'll be honest with you, I stopped listening at one point because I just saw someone say this in the chat and I went to go double check it. The 1990s X-Men animated series is getting a revival, currently titled X-Men 97, and will premiere on Disney Plus in 2023.
Well, isn't that exciting?
Isn't that exciting? We're getting a
sequel. I don't know what that means.
We're getting the X-Men animated series is coming back. Nostalgia lives on. Oh, very exciting.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Long way to wait, though. Punk Rocks and Soda says, I can't disagree with Kenny winning more. I think holding off on Page again could possibly risk fans turning on the storyline, especially considering how long this has been built and how perfectly everything has been told with the Dark Order integration. I've seen a few people mention this about people getting burnt out on this storyline. I thought the same thing when he lost the 10-man tag, that might burn out. Then he came back and he won, and then he got that massive pop in the casino ladder match. And I was like, I think this guy might just be the guy that always gets the pop.
Yeah. He's your top babyface. Like, he really is, and he's got a different character where he can lose, but it doesn't hurt him as a character, because it allows him to change. And as long as, if they just went right back to the match again, and there's no change in the storyline, it's just, he lost, let him try again, then yeah, I think you'd probably get burnt out on it. But it's the fact that he's changed as a character so much. Like, each match is therefore different because he's a different character. And you could keep doing that for a very long time, in my opinion, and you wouldn't lose me as a viewer. Maybe other people are different, that's fine. But I know for me, I'm excited to see Hangman Page continue to grow and evolve as a character, whether he wins or loses.
Final tally on the poll, 86% went for the yes vote. Yes, 86%. That is a landslide. Colin said, have the Elite interfere in the tournament final so that Miro wins because Kenny is afraid of Danielson, and then have that backfire when Danielson stops the Elite in the main event so Hangman wins. Then you can get Hangman versus Miro and Kenny versus Bryan. Peter Mullins, I agree that you could extend Page Omega for the biggest edging ever. However, in the world of COVID, injuries, booking clashes, and new signings, you have to pull the trigger now. This is a moment where they can control, and they have control of the situation, and they have to go. Meme Man said, here's my guess. We've already had Bryan versus Omega to a draw, but not had much has changed with either character, so there could still be a stalemate. The only person I could see taking the belt off Omega other than Bryan is Hangman Page. Page wins at Full Gear. Chuck Cassidy says, good morning, good afternoon, lads. After hearing conversations with people when AEW was in Cincinnati, that the latest they'd wait to see Hangman win is Full Gear. I think that seeing Kenny as a champ every week is great, but will be stale soon. Much love. Will Campbell said, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with Kenny being champion is stale, especially when they had that segment on Dynamite this past week. Yeah, it just makes me love him even more. Now he's back with Callis again. Good Lord, did I get swerved by that segment. And it was just beautiful.
I loved it. I love that segment so much because they so totally got me. I noticed the cameraman got in the way twice. And I was like,
didn't you think it was weird? Didn't you think it was weird? And like,
I did.
Because they kept then cutting to another camera shot. I was like, oh, that's Tony Khan like saying, get that camera guy out of the shot. Like he's ruining, I've got to keep cutting to different camera angles. I thought it was so weird, but I never at any point thought, it's Don Callis.
Yeah. I never thought more of it than just, this is a cameraman that just keeps getting in the way. Like it happened twice and I was like, what is going on with this cameraman? And then he attacked him and I went, of course, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I loved that. And I've been a really big fan of Kenny Omega's title run. And if it ends here, I think it's been a fantastic title run. if it continues, I think it could just keep getting better. Like, I know some people might get burnt out on it, but I'm really into it.
Will Campbell said, "Hi guys. I think if you're going to put the title on Page, you should do it here, especially after the go home contract in blood angle. Also, like All Out, the pay-per-view is being shown in theaters. I and my younger sister are driving 90 minutes to New Jersey to go and see it. I'm sorry that you've got to go to New Jersey." James Hanley said, "If Page wins, the only I've no beef with New Jersey. I just hear that it's rubbish. If Page wins, then the only way it could be better if is Cody comes out to present Page with the title, takes a picture with Page, and generally stands next to Page the entire time, thinking to himself, 'You did it, Cody. The face of the company. No more booze.'"
What if he hands him the title and does the point?
Yes. Danny says, "Hangman has to win here, or he risks becoming another Luger or Strowman. Guys who won titles. Sorry, things just changed. Guys who win titles but are considered choke artists. He needs to win his career-defining big match. He could lose it soon after. Thank you for it. Congratulations becoming DAD." That's an excellent point, actually, there that I will raise again, Danny. Kenny's final line in that video package was, "I'm Kenny Omega, and I win big matches. Hangman Page always loses big matches." WH says, "Purely on the Page Omega story, I think there's mileage left. Hangman hasn't got over his drinking, for example. However, I don't want to be going into Omega versus Danielson, Miro, Punk, knowing who's winning, so I think they should just pull the trigger now." Brian Moore said, "Page's world title win has been built since AEW began. He got the first world title match against Jericho. Fans rejected him. He got over in his tag team with Omega. Has big confidence hits with losing to Omega, Brian Cage, and the Dark Order. With the Dark Order." Sari says, "Omega to lose and go away to heal himself and how banged up he's been. Get Okada in, then or Ishii to have matches against Danielson. Kenny ain't close to 100%. Keep him away from Okada. But really, whatever AEW does, I just trust them."
Oh my God, you saying Ishii against Bryan Danielson. Oh, I would just melt. That gets my gears going.
I'm going to hot tag over to you to read up some of these Ultra Chats.
Very good. Thomas Fitzgerald says, "I think the Danielson-Miro match ends with Miro winning due to interference by Callis Omega because they're looking past Page and are scared of a Danielson title shot. Then Hangman, motivated even more by this, beats Omega." Thoughts?
Yeah, there's every chance. I think if Danielson wins, then there is going to be so much talk on commentary about, man, Danielson Omega too. And whether that is what gets into Kenny's head.
Yeah. I will say the idea I heard earlier as well, that the Elite beat up Brian. I don't love interference in a bunch of different matches in AEW. I like more clean finishes and whatnot. So I would prefer clean finishes. But the Elite costing Bryan Danielson the match and then him coming out in the main event to run them off, allowing for the clean match, I don't hate that. Mm-hmm. I think there's something there to that, and that could be fun. Kavum87 says, "On Wednesday, TK tweeted it would be a good episode to hook a friend into watching AEW. With the episode heavily referencing New Japan Pro Wrestling, it seems that TK was using this to have fans educate new fans on NJPW for an inevitable crossover, specifically Okada. I was thinking he might have shown up last week, but maybe next week. I don't know. I'm holding out hope." Marmalade Squeeze. Yeah. I hope so. He's in America. It's gotta happen.
Yeah, I'm not gonna say. I'm gonna change that. It's not gonna happen soon, but it will happen.
Oh, it will happen. It's gotta happen. We need Kenny Okada 5. We need
Tony's not an idiot.
No,
he's looking at me like, who? Who am I booking against Omega now?
Just some guy.
The man knows what he's doing.
None of those casuals will know who he is. Marmalade Squeeze says, since Moxley was originally supposed to be in the title eliminator stuff and he was apparently projected to turn heel, it could have played out in the mix that Mox beat Bryan with help from Kingston and then challenged Hangman. So they're using the next biggest heel.
It's a good point.
It's a very good point, and I like that whenever they do things like this where someone needs replacing, that doesn't automatically mean they're going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
I just think that's fun. Keith Lloyd says, a podcast with my favorites, Tempo and the DAD, minus Terry the Cat. Could you guys see a debuting or guest appearance from CJ Perry Saturday? That's Lana, for anyone unaware. Also, what match intrigues you guys the most at Full Gear? I'm undecided between Punk versus Kingston and Bryan versus Miro.
Based on the conversation that we've had today, it's Page Omega. That is the one that intrigues me the most. Following up from that, it's Punk and Kingston. It's Pink and Kingston.
I was gonna say that, damn it. Yeah, my answer would be the same. It's those two, and Bryan Miro is up there as well. Mm-hmm. New Punk Rant says Page Omega. Eddie and Punk.
Just to answer the question, could we see CJ Perry this Saturday? I don't know.
I don't really need to see Lana in AEW personally. You know, I like it better with her being this mythical figure that Miro talks about in all the promos. You know, like I'm sure if she shows up, they would do a good job. Like she was a good manager for him and everything. But I just like what Miro's got going on right now, and I don't really want to see it change.
Yeah,
you know. New Punk Rant says Page Omega, Eddie Punk, and Darby MJF. Haven't even talked about Darby and MJF.
I know.
Crazy stuff. Alone are massively well-told stories. It's mind-blowing how deep the upper mid-card and main event scene is and how many stories are told. It's definitely a marathon, and AEW still feels like it's not even reached a peak.
100%. 100p. I completely agree with you on that one.
Completely agree as well. It's such good stuff. I love this. Love it. Brian Moore said, hi, Brian. I know Brian. I think it would do more damage for Miro to lose than Bryan, and while an Okada reign for Omega could be good, I don't think it will work and will make people turn on Omega's reign, and it will be difficult to maintain Page's momentum. It's entirely possible. It's a different promotion. It's a different setup than New Japan for sure. But these are all talented guys. I think they can make it work. Lakshmi Narasimhan B says, looking forward to Hangman getting his shot, hopefully. The perfect feud right now to turn Punk heel, Darby winning, MJF then blaming Wardlow and getting beat up for his troubles, and Baker retaining. Hope Miro wins, maybe the Elite Shenanigans, ? So Brian Omega 2. I am also looking forward to Dan Lambert eating a whole lot of Finnish spam before tapping to It's a Boston Crab.
I mean, I loved that segment on Dynamite with Dan Lambert hitting the power bomb and then shouting it's a Boston Crab. I mean, I know there are people who don't like the Inner Circle jerks and American Top Team feud. I dig it, man, and I like Dan Lambert.
I mean, it's classic heel stuff, you know. It's just I don't know. It's tricky. Kevin May says, so the Punk Eddie match, this anger-filled match that has a no DQ stipulation. Could we see a DQ win for Punk when Eddie beats the ever-loving crap out of him? Also, I love AEW, but the mishandling of the women's division is starting to piss me off. It must change.
Yep.
Agreed.
Agreed. So much agreed. I'm glad someone else brought that up in the Ultrachats as well. Thank you so much, because I completely agree. As far as I'm aware, so did I misread that? But I think the Punk Kingston match is just a singles match. I just wanted to go and double check that.
Just a singles match. I don't see a DQ.
Yeah,
because AEW doesn't do DQs like that.
Yeah, I think what Kevin might have been saying, like, it has no DQ stipulation. So we may see like a DQ finish. I don't think they'll do a DQ finish though.
No, I do not think that crowd would take kindly to a DQ finish in that match.
No, they would not. No, sir. They would not.
Thomas Correa has been a member for 3 months in a row. Woo, yeah, members. I think that Danielson or Punk, one could be a loss. My pick is Miro wins to build a heel for Hangman, and Punk wins to bring out a more badass Punk. Both very possible indeed. The mayor of Painesville, Dan. Hi, Dan. Says, hey, guys, what if Adam wins and Dark Order come out to celebrate, and boom, they all attack Adam, ending his show? That is a terrible idea.
Dan,
you had me for the first half of that.
Dan, honestly,
come on, Dan.
I love you like a brother. That is one of that is, if Louis Dangle had,
I was going to say Louis.
I would say that he was baiting everyone.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. I fully expect I fully expect Hangman to win, and then Dark Order come out, and the show goes off the air with Hangman on their shoulders. Yeah. That's how the pay-per-view goes off the air. They're not going to Batista drop him or anything.
Absolutely not. Oh, Dan. No. Dan just wants to watch the world burn.
See, but it's Dan.
Dan.
You know, it's Dan. Like, I keep thinking that Dan's a gimmick, but Dan's not a gimmick.
I love him so much. What a great guy.
It's good. Great stuff. Jayla Turner says, I think people were willing to accept the 10-man tag loss because Hangman had to take time off because of its baby, so they had to write him out. But to intentionally prolong his feud even more might kill the momentum.
What I would say there, Jayla, is how many people knew that he took the time off for the kid. That would be my sort of counter to that. Not saying that you're wrong, just saying that would be my counter to that. That's
a good point. I still thought he was going to get the title shot at All Out after that. I thought they were going to work around it. James Handley says, my problem with the women's division has been the same since late 2020. AEW has the components for a solid division with enough young talent to be great in a couple of years. They just don't give them airtime. For whatever reason, they squander every opportunity.
So someone like being like, well, they're not over. It's like, it's because they've been given a chance to get over.
Yeah. I agree. It's tough. Lord Jackson says, Page winning is obvious, so I'll ask a different question. How long until the women's championship main events a pay-per-view? Considering Britt is their golden girl, if she doesn't main event once, i.e. Britt Rosa, then I have no faith that it will ever happen. I think if you're going to do it, that would be the match.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Yeah. Like if it's not Britt Rosa, I agree with you, Lord Jackson. Like I have much more confidence that it would actually main event a pay-per-view. Josh says, off topic, shout out to Sturry13. Sorry, this has just been moved around. Where has it gone? Okay, Josh says, when will Sullivan Bo Brown challenge for the Jamnet Championship? Time to make the Bohood dream come true. Also, look, if you do your interview podcast, would you do any of the NRB crew? And I would also love to hear more about how everyone met, backstories, etc. 100% I would do. Like whether I don't think that my interview podcast idea will ever come to fruition. I'd love to do it, but I think I'd only love to do it right now because I'm listening to so much Adam Buxton and Chris Van Vliet. So that's why I'm like, I'd love to do an interview podcast where I just chat with people. But if I did, 100%, I'd be getting Sullivan, I'd be getting Blair, I'd be getting Tom, the whole crew on there. As for Sullivan and Bo Brown challenging for the title, mate, who knows? You never know. Kevin said, off topic, shout out to Sturry13, a French streamer YouTube who did a watch along on his Twitch channel of Monday's WrestleTalk news. It was good fun reacting to him, and we laughed at Luke's running gag on Shane Helms. Well, I'm glad someone did, because there are a few people who were not happy with me doing that joke.
Brother.
Misha says, question for Tempest. Danielson's return match was full of spots that referenced his part matches. What reference spots would you like to see in the Page Omega match? My little idea is that Hangman wins not with the buckshot, but with a Rainmaker.
Interesting. See, it's tough because I don't think of any significant spots that happened in their Full Gear match last year that they could go back to. There's a lot of really memorable spots from certain matches. Like Okada and Tanahashi had their wrist control thing that they've gone back to. Okada and Omega had different things that they went back to. I don't really have a moment like that where they have that same similar thing between Page and Omega. The only ones that I can really think about would be maybe Hangman goes for the one-winged angel because he hit that in the Revolution tag match. And because the one that's really stuck out to me is Hangman teasing going for the buckshot at Revolution, which they then have gone back to a few times since then in different promos and segments and stuff like that. That to me has kind of been the tease. I don't know what comes up in a match the same way, but maybe I'm just not thinking of something.
Shout out to Sat, who has joined us in the chat to say that Wrestling Daily wants a shot at the championship. I think that is something that we could possibly arrange. Phoenix says, hey, Luke, DAD, and Tempest, watching for some time and wanted advice. Watching Full Gear with a friend who hasn't seen any AEW and not watched wrestling since they were a child. How in-depth do I give in terms of context and history with each match's story? Here is my bit of advice for you, Phoenix. Watch the countdown.
Absolutely.
The countdown show that they've got airing before the pay-per-view is going to do everything that, like, it will do your job for you, and it will do it, and with no disrespect, better than you will. Like, in the same way that it would do better than I would. It would do better than Tempest would, because they have got these stories down. So that would be my advice. Get them to watch the countdown. So it'll be an hour, and it will catch them up with absolutely everything that they need to know.
Totally agree.
The Legit Underboss, or maybe just watch the pre-show because they'll have all the video packages. The Legit Underboss, I'm calling it right now. Revolution 2022. Britt versus Rosa exploding barbed wire death match. I don't think they're going to go back to that one.
No, I think they've kind of blown their load on that a little bit.
Well, did they blow their load, Tempest? That was the problem. They didn't blow any loads.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Oh man, just reading Moxley's book and hearing the conversation he was having with Kingston when that happened, he was like, "What happened? I think that sucked. Did that suck? What happened? Yeah, it sucked. They're telling me it sucked. What do we do? Do I lie here? Oh man."
Never been so sad for a finish of a wrestling match. Bum me out, man. Legit Underboss continues to say, not AEW related, but Tempest, who are your picks for the best of the Super Junior and Tag League?
Oh, New Japan. Best of the Super Junior. I would like to see Sho win this year. I don't know if they're going to do that because the heel is IWGP Junior champion right now. Hiromu was always a good chance. I could see Robbie Eagles winning too. There's a bunch of different people. With the Tag League, I think Naito and Sonata are going to win it.
And lastly, for now, Peter Mullins said, quite simply, Luke, how do you feel about the new Godzilla? Oh, sorry, how do you feel about the new Ghostbusters movie? I mean, I'm always feeling about new Godzilla. Actually, no, before we get to that, we'll end on this. Legit Underboss has also said, I can only be sure of one thing. Hangman needs to become the second person to ever kick out of the one-winged angel. We did not talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you do that spot in this match?
No. You do it in the eventual rematch. You can build this whole... You get the big pop of Hangman winning in this match. Get another big pop in another match where he kicks out. Save it. You don't need to put all the eggs in the one basket. You can have this match be great and still hold off on a big moment or two for the future.
And lastly, from Peter Mullins, and I'm going to read this one out correctly this time. Quite simply, Luke, how do you feel about the new Ghostbusters? I saw the trailer today for the first time yesterday, and I popped for you. Peter Mullins, I've watched that trailer, the second trailer, I should say. Excuse me, multiple times over, and I've cried every single time. I am seeing it Monday evening at a special screening ahead of its release at the end of the week. I haven't been this excited for a movie since Endgame.
Oh,
I am so stoked to watch this movie. I've cried at every single thing that they have released since they had that first teaser, which was literally just a bit of sheet lifts up and reveals the Ecto one. And I was like, this is going to be the greatest movie I've ever seen. This is going to be the greatest sequel ever made. I am so super duper excited, and I cannot wait. I was showing off Tempest, my Ghostbusters. There it is there on the
very nice.
It was on the Commodore 64.
Of course.
Another Commodore 64 release. And then there's my Sinclair Spectrum release of Ghostbusters.
Yep.
Then I've got all my VHS collection up there, and my DVDs, my laser discs, and my Blu-rays. It's the greatest, Tempest. The best film ever made.
I really want this movie to be good for you. Like, I will enjoy it too because I love Ghostbusters, but I want this to be great for you.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier, and he was like, even if it's bad, I think I'm still gonna love it. Like, because I think it's just gonna be everything that I need it to be. Like, it doesn't have to be amazing, but it will probably be everything that I need it to be. And I very much agree with him on that one. Also, welcome to the chat. That's just before we leave. SP3, he's got to deal with the snow in Minneapolis. Hangman better win.
I have heard that it's supposed to snow all weekend in Minneapolis.
I was gonna say I heard it was cold out there because like Denise was saying that she is
not happy.
Denise is not happy. She is a California girl. She don't have a wardrobe for Minneapolis snow weather. Anyway,
Cry me a river.
Cry me a river, dick face. I'm not going.
It's Canada.
Weird, you got there and it was sunny, but like, oh my god, I'm not ready for this weather.
Yeah, walk out in shorts.
Anyway, thank you all so much for joining us here on this very special episode of the WrestleTalk Podcast. Thank you, Tempest, for taking the time out of your day to join us on this show. It's always a delight to do a podcast with you, particularly when we get to nerd out about AEW for an hour. Like I honestly thought, I was like, well, we might get an hour out of the show. Easily got an hour out of this show. Have you got anything you'd like to plug before we go?
Just everyone stay tuned to partsFUNknown. We got a lot of fun stuff coming there in the next few weeks and months. So if you haven't already, subscribe to partsFUNknown. You will not regret it. And
you can go over to beer52.com/WrestleTalk. We've just had a chat come in, so I'm going to really read that now. Kevin says, quick thought. Can you see Maria Kanellis coming in to take charge of the AEW's women's division if Ring of Honor is no more? Also, Paige has to win, please. I don't know I don't hate it by any means. No, I think Maria has done a fantastic job with Ring of Honor in her time there. I don't know how easy someone can just walk in and like take charge of something in AEW quite the same way, but I would very much like to see her involved. Without a doubt, I would like to see her influence on the women's division. I think that'd be great. But that is all we've got time for now. That's all we've got time for on this episode of the show. Please, 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 if you're in the UK, click the link in the video description down below or the one that's being spammed by our wonderful moderating team, beer52.com/WrestleTalk. Get yourself not 1, not 2, not 3, not 8, like some other channels might give you, but 10 free craft beers on us. You've just got to pay for that postage. It is a excellent service. I've been a user of Beer 52 for about 5, maybe even 6 years at this point. I was an early adopter of Beer 52, actually. I did it before it was cool. And they are very good friends of ours. In fact, right here, I have a Beer 52 bottle opener on my desk for when I have a drink at work, which I don't do. I don't drink at work. Unless it's like, this sort of level of time. Anywho, that is all we've got time for. Crikey, that was a bad way to end the show. I've got to go. Thank you all so much for joining us, everyone. Jam that jam. Tempest will be back tomorrow with Pete to do the SmackDown and AEW Rampage review. Love you all. Bye-bye. Have a nice weekend.